Hey, good morning. How's everyone doing today? Yeah, for sure. So I noticed that there was a lot of questions with people that are growing accounts that are about, $200, $300 in size, and so on. I really wanted to go over some strategies for growing a small account. So with that said, I'm just going to keep the conversation generic until we reach about 11:15, just so everyone joins before I have to repeat it again. But I am going to save this to my YouTube channel as well. What's up? How's everyone's trading day going so far? Red today, small red. Yeah, today was definitely a choppy market. Facebook play actually was one that was pretty good. Even though there was some averaging down and kind of going back up and all that. I'm also going to explain that on the live stream because I think that was a really great play to show how averaging down works, how it could have went the wrong way, but also like how I really want to show like what the proper way to average down is. So yeah, so the Facebook play, essentially what happened was we got in at 1.74. It moved up slightly and then it went down. So what I did was I noticed there was a nearby support. I kept a extended stop loss of about 20%. Once it reached support, it was about 1.46. Essentially, I averaged down again. So, or not again, I averaged down for the first time. It brought my average to 1.6. Then what I did was I let it move back up from support. At 1.6, when it hit that mark, I sold when was that break even? About 1.62, I sold my runners or my, sorry, I'm explaining this wrong. The calls that I used to average down with. After that, we sold the rest at 1.74. So overall, it was a really great play, but I'm going to demonstrate in a bit. All right, so it's 11:14. How do you use scanners to find runners? Really, you want to use like any um, any like volume-based scanner. That's the key thing. All right, so it's now 11:15, and I'm gonna be going over exactly how to grow a small account or how you really want to use this. Now, essentially, with a small account, this can be anywhere from $100 to $1,000 in size. One thing I will say, when it does come to trading, the larger the amount you start off with, the easier it is to to grow that. Because if you're starting with $200, and obviously, let me put it into you in perspective this way. So, say the challenge account is at 35K right now, the one that I'm doing. If I go in 10% with every play, then that's going to be $3,500 on each play. But obviously, if you have a $200 account and you're going in with 10%, it's just not really going to work. So if we put it in this way, $200 account, 10% on each play, well, that's only $20 per call. Pretty much in the market, like that's gonna be very, very hard to find. You might find one on like a Friday expiration or so, but it's gonna be tough. Now, one thing I will say is that growing a small account, anything like under, I'd say $1,000, uh, it's gonna be a little bit difficult. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna tell you that it's gonna be easy. It's gonna be a little bit difficult, but once you put in the effort, you can definitely do this. Uh, for example, I took 500 to 6,500 before, and it's really just using a consistent strategy. And I'm going to demonstrate here today how you can kind of do that. So obviously, if you have a $500 account, there's a couple things you can do. Just go all YOLO. A $500 account, if you're following our day trade alerts, so we have day trades, small accounts, swings. Um, Essentially, you don't want to go in on the day trades because what's going to happen is when it comes to day trades and stuff, you're going to be risking a lot. So let's say, for example, let's just put this into perspective. Let's say you had a $200 account and you took that Facebook play. So that Facebook play was at 1.74. So obviously you were using about you're using a large portion of your account. I'm sure if I calculate that, that's maybe like 80% or so. You're using a large portion of your account, And then what ends up happening is, let's say we stop out at 1.6. Obviously, there was some averaging down done there. It did move back up past 1.74, but let's just say in the worst case scenario, you held all the way down and then cut, or you held to 1.6 and cut, or let's say at the very least 1.44. So let's say this is a $30 loss in this play. Now, what ends up happening is your port will end up going from 200 to 170. And obviously that might not look like anything in hindsight. That's $30 loss, but essentially that's still a big hit in perspective. That's a 15% hit. And what's going to happen the next day is you could end up going from 170, you know, to like 148, and then you're like, okay, I have to get back over 150, and essentially you could just end up trickling down your account all the way down. So this is one thing you really don't want to kind of get into. So obviously, when it comes to larger accounts, like the account challenge I'm doing and all that, we started with 5K. I recommended the whole, 10% for regular plays, 5% for light plays, 2 to 3% for risky plays. Now, obviously, um, this is for larger accounts. Even with $1,000, you can still do this and it'll work. Maybe 500, but when it comes to anything smaller than 500, if you're looking to grow, 250 to 1,000 or 200 to 1,000 or so, you're going to have to take some larger calculated risk. So what I would recommend for this is you're going to want to follow the small account alerts. Um, and you're probably going to want to go in on calls that are around like 0.5 to 0.6. Now, ideally, if you're going in on a call that's 0.5, you're going to have a little bit of difficulty because remember, these smaller calls will trade in increments of 5 cents. So one thing that's going to be a little bit risky is think about it this way. If the bid is 0.4, the mid is 0.45, and the ask is 0.5, then obviously if you bought this call, if you want to buy it right now, you have to buy at 0.5. So you're going to pay $50. Now, if you want to sell the very next second, you're automatically taking a $10 loss, which will take you to $40. So let's just put that into perspective. Obviously, that's 1 over 5. So just to kind of demonstrate how this calculation will work, 0.5. So obviously we know it's 20%. So there's a 20% loss. Now, remember this. Uh, if you want it, let's say this is obviously considering that this stock didn't move at all. Let's say it moves and the bid goes down to 0.35. Now you're taking a $15 loss, and if we put that into perspective, that's going to be a 30% loss now. So you can see how your loss can build up. So one thing you kind of want to do, if you're ever using a small account, and you're ever trying to grow an account or anything like that, that's under 500, one thing is that you don't really want to look at the percent per alert. It's going to be kind of impossible to stop out at like negative 10%, negative 15, negative 20%. So um, once again, the main thing here is kind of uh, just to get your percentage loss if you bought at 0.5. So really the main thing to take away from this is, and I'm saying this right now, is that if you have a smaller account that is less than $500, um, you're gonna need to take discipline. Like you're gonna need discipline. You're gonna need calculated risk. You're gonna want to go in those smaller calls. I would say definitely open a cash account. Um, Essentially, yeah, create a cash account so you can have unlimited day trades. You can buy and sell the same day. You can cut if necessary, and so on and so forth. But when it comes to a smaller account, it's very difficult to grow these just because of the percentage that occurs with them. So if you're ever looking to start off, um, really with trading, personally recommend like 1,000 capital, or even 500 isn't bad. But if you're starting with anything under 500, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to find alerts. And the one thing you don't want to do is have 300 something in your account and then end up using 200 on a play or 250. You want to make sure that you're keeping your risk proportional. Another thing you can do, and this is what really helped me grow my account, so this is a key one. Obviously, when it comes to these small accounts, patience is key. So they're not going to grow overnight. That's kind of unrealistic. So patience is key. Uh, but like a key note, actually, let me put it here, is trading kind of on like Thursdays and Fridays, or even SPY 3 times a week. Now, obviously, this is assuming like, if you're taking your own plays or all, there's a lot to take into consideration, but just keep in mind with that type of volatility, like, if we hop over to um, like Robinhood and just look at the premiums for SPY, obviously, it's 3 times like same day expiration during the week, and there's a lot of opportunities where you can kind of run those calls up or run those puts up, either way. So let's take a look at these in perspective. Patience, yeah. So if we do like puts, take a look at this. Like this 423 put, the low was 0.16, the high was 0.41. Or, even this 424 put, the low was 0.44, the high was 0.95. That's over 100% gain. So essentially, it's going to be easier to trade on Thursday and Friday because you're going to be able to trade those like mid to larger cap stocks. So obviously, if you're trying to trade, let's put this into perspective. If you're trying to trade, um, let's say something like Tesla, and you have a $500 account, then obviously if you want to trade this on a Monday, then you're probably like going to be going in with like $450 just to play this. But if you trade it on a Friday, then you can most likely go in with like 100, to play it. So that's the whole theory behind this, that as you progress throughout the week, the premiums are going to get cheaper, you're going to have quicker moves, you're going to be able to kind of use that a lot more. So when I really grew my 500 to 6,500 account, the main thing is kind of getting your feet off the floor, creating that buffer zone. Remember, trading is all about the psychological mindset as well. If you have a $500 account, and let's say your first play you take, this thing goes to, 489. What your first reaction is going to be, I have to get back over 500. And what happens is you might end up trading and over trading, and then you end up at like 456, and it keeps trickling down. So there's a couple things I recommend. Whenever depositing, like if it's an even number or something, let's say you're planning on throwing in $5,000 into account, or not 5,000, $500. I recommend throwing in 550 just to give you a little buffer zone so it doesn't mess with that mental aspect. Yeah, so we are looking to average down with gold to answer your question in a little bit. We'll alert if we do so. Essentially, right here, you kind of see how this works with these smaller accounts. But once again, you just really want to be careful. I highly recommend, um, exactly how he said it, patience. Yeah, we still have long-term Nokia, so it's exactly this. It's exactly patience. It's gonna pay um, as you wait, even if you're not trading every day of the week and you're waiting for those Thursdays and Fridays, and so that's going to help you a lot more when growing a small account. Because I'm telling you right now off the bat, you're going to see like those Instagram ads and everything all over the place where they're telling you, start up your account with $50 today and start investing. And I'm just going to tell you, like, it's really hard. They don't really tell you kind of how that all works. So just really be careful and be patient with the small account. It's not going to grow overnight, but there's definitely ways to grow it. And as soon as you get off your feet, so like let's say you do this in the right way, and let's say you go from like 300 to 350, or even 300 to like 320 in a day or so. That's still okay, and you're just growing consistently. That's really what you want to look for, consistent gains every day. Don't go for the home run. If you go for the home run, that is what will burn you. Like if you have 300 and you're putting in 300 and you're like, oh, this is going to go 100%. It might go 100%, but taking those small calculated gains, they're really going to add up. And you see exactly how that works with my account challenge. Obviously, this whole session is on small accounts, but just to demonstrate, obviously, you guys know that I started that small account challenge on April 22nd with 5K in that account. And we're just going to scale this similarly here. Um, obviously we started with 5K and now it's sitting around 36K. You can see how this works. So we started with 5K, we grew it, we doubled it in about 8 days to over 11K, and then now it's sitting about over 36K. So with that said, if we're applying that same type of logic, you can see a lot of days were just ending green. There was only one red day on this challenge in the past 8 weeks, and there was a lot of volatility in the market. But once again, like I'm saying this, it's all about not going for the home run at the same time. Obviously, with 5K, that gives you a little bit more flexibility. But if I go in and I just went for the home run all at once, sure, it may have worked out, but I could have burned out a lot more. remember, one thing you want to ask yourself before you enter any play is this risky? You know, am I entering a risky situation? Remember, the whole thing about the market is the risk to reward ratio. If you're risking, so one thing you kind of um, want to think about is, am I risking more than my reward? So, like, uh, if you have like $5,000 in an account and you're risking all 5,000 for a, 10, 50% or 10, 15% gain, is that worth it? Like, you're going to a 5,000 hoping for 500 on that call when you can go negative 10%, negative 15%, and I'll take your account down negative, negative 500, negative 750. So yeah, I see your question there. Yes, I do agree that it might be hard to get entries. One thing I do recommend is that I try to place the calls as timely as possible when I put them out. There may be a slight delay due to Discord or the bot. I'm not sure. I tried my best to limit that as much as possible. But one thing I do recommend is like when I do put out eyeing these plays, I really recommend pulling up the contract and pulling up the chart as well. I'm trying my best to put out a little bit more information with eyeing so you can kind of see like what level I'm looking to kind of get in at for that level to break to buy those calls. So um, I'm gonna try to work a little bit on how I put out eyeing those trades. But once I do that, I'd say pull up the contract. Have the number of contracts ready and filled out. So you can kind of just like send it. You always want to buy between the mid and the ask or the ask so that you can kind of get in. Hey brother, so I have 6,500. Do I take the play? Yeah, I mean with 6,500, you could definitely take the plays for the day trades. Um, yeah, I mean 6,500, that's actually a really good amount to start with, to be honest. For instance, from that $5,000 account, like the first or second day I went up to 6,500. I had like a really good day, but that was the main starting point for me. So with 6,500, I mean 10%, you can go in like 650 per play. Um, are like 325 for those light ones. And, obviously if you're taking a 10% return, that's like $65 on that or so on. So you said, at what threshold would you start buying 10 contracts on a small account? So I'm not saying like buy 10 contracts. I would say it all depends on, the premium of it. Like obviously if it's like a $50 premium and you're buying 10 and that's 500 and that's your whole account, then that's not going to work. But um, I would say always make sure your risk is kind of minimal. Like if you can go in with less than 25 to 30% of your account, that's going to help you a lot. Like, I mean, theoretically, obviously, you see with like a $6,500 account, you can go in with 10%, 5%, but with $200 account or so, it's not gonna help. So I would say like, yeah, I would say the best amount to probably start with is like $2,500. I would say like 2,500. 5K is actually even like a lot. If you have 3K, like that's gonna work in my opinion. Give us a hard stop amount. Yeah, I'm gonna try to do that. How many contracts? So I always recommend like to scale up. Okay, just to answer his question there, $300 small account. I would say follow the small account alerts. Now for let's see, I'm gonna answer your question there. Um, you said how many contracts? So obviously with the whole thing, like I think I wrote it out up here. Did I? Okay, so let's put it back into perspective. So 10% of your account for regular trades. Anything that's light, I would say 5%, and then 2 to 3%, I would say those are risky trades. So if you can scale according to that, like just buy the number of contracts. So like if you have, $5,000 in your account, 10% is 500. Just scale up for that 500. If that's 5 contracts or 10 contracts to make up that amount. Yes, I do use level two. It's not something that's necessary. I only look at it sometimes, like if I'm buying shares or so, or flow. Yeah, so I'd say there's about a 5% tolerance to get into plays. Can I do 5% for all plays? Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can pretty much, yeah, if you stick with 5% for all plays, even if you did like, 10% on each play, it still would play out. Like, it still would work. I did that sometime before. Uh, like, yeah, you could really do that. It just depends. Do you sell covered calls and cash? Yeah, I do that. No, so it's not a good way to grow a small account because you have to buy 100 shares of that stock. Yeah, I wish we could do OTO, CO for options like bracket orders essentially. Let's see. Um, I'm not sure when my next small account challenge is, but we'll definitely let you know. So for small accounts, do you recommend day trading or swing trades? That's going to be a little bit difficult to say. I would say, if it profits the same day, doesn't hit your stop, then, uh, you know, like obviously keep it as a day trade. But if it's, yeah, if it's like small account, then I would say yeah, you can swing it. Yeah, so exactly. So going according to Stan's point there. So obviously, a $700 account following day trades. One thing I kind of want to recommend is that, uh, obviously, if it's like an 80% win rate or so, and then the problem is like if you can't take every trade on the kind of like the day trades account, then it's gonna hurt you a bit because you might just be taking like the losing trades or so. Um, Yeah, Cobra Algo is really good. It's definitely a tool for day trading. Let's see. So yeah, you could do spreads for small accounts. I would say do spreads like those spreads, credit spreads, and so on. Sorry, tongue twister there. Yeah, I'm definitely going to continue the eyeing alerts. Yeah, so I do understand that, obviously, like you're saying, nobody has a 30K plus account. We started with 5K and then we went up to, obviously it's at 36K. So I'm hoping, I'm aiming for 50K by next Friday. Once we hit that, I most likely will restart that account. But I hope you guys understand that it's pretty hard to just restart it in the midst of it because obviously whenever I start one, you're gonna have like 2 to 3 people kind of um like or not 2 to 3 people. You'll have people like asking you the next day like, can you restart it? Can you restart it the next week and so on. So unfortunately, I can't just restart it out of the blue. So restrictions for day trading on their 25K with the cash account is you have to wait for the cash to settle. It's still not that hard. Let's see. Actually, uh, yeah, I would say when following the day trade alerts, if you don't get it at my price point, I'd say 5%. They don't have a 30 series GPU. Yeah, I don't have a I mean I'm being serious. I just trade off my laptop and a 21-inch monitor on my phone like, I don't have a crazy graphics card or something. Yeah. So the average size for an option trade for 30K percent or 30K plus accounts, that's about like if you have 35K in account, that's about 3,500 per each play. So obviously it's gonna work out a little bit better. What scanner do I use? I use a volume-based scanner, but I can't exactly um, put it out. So let's see. How do you plan the entry and exit? Nor I sell, the trade goes on to make a kill. Whenever I hold, I end up deep in the red. So that's definitely a good point that you put on there. Um, I would say entry and exit. So I'm a big like support resistance trader. So if I see something breaking resistance, that's typically when I enter or on a retest. Um, I would say if you're selling too early and if you're holding too long, your problem might be, I'm not sure what it is, but it might be that you're going in with too much. If you're going in with too much of your account, then what's going to end up happening is when it goes down, your emotions are going to get to you and you're going to be like, okay, let me cut. Like, especially on a Friday expiration when it moves too fast. And then, you look back 5 minutes later and that play would have been $100 up. And that's exactly how it can kind of, um, hurt you because what's going to end up happening is you take that play, you cut, negative $200, and then you're looking at it the next minute and you're like, this would have been $500, but you don't ever get to realize that profit. So I would say less is definitely more. How much do you spend on your contracts per week? I'm not sure per week, but I just go according to the what's it called? Um, the account balance size. Why when I win it's like $20, but when I lose it's like $500. So that might also be, I definitely understand what you're saying. I would say that could be a sizing issue as well, because what could end up happening is obviously, uh, I know Steve over there. Um, I think the issue is like you know how losses can build up. So that's an issue. Like if you know how losses are, um, like you know how quick those calls can go from green to red and so on, then as soon as it goes green, you might be like tempted to kind of sell and so. But what you can do is you can sell like two-thirds, then sell, like a little bit more or scale out halfway, sell some more. Uh, that's pretty much what I do. Yeah, so 10% scale out on swing trades, like if anything pretty much profits 10% or more in the same day, that's pretty much a day trade from there. How do you pay yourself? You pretty much pay yourself end of the week. You can kind of like recycle that account. So if you have like 5K in an account, you sell, go again, and so on. Oh, okay. That is a really, really great question you brought up there, Quincy. You said, how many analysts do you recommend following? So, one thing, this is a very key thing I would definitely say to listen to is whatever Discord you're in. I mean, obviously, there's people from all different Discords here. Uh, do not, absolutely do not play hopscotch with analysts. Um, you want to pick one or two analysts and follow them strictly, because what could end up happening is if each analyst is keeping a 70% win rate and you're playing hopscotch between them, you might just be taking all the losing calls. So that's one thing I definitely recommend. Positions for July 16th options. Typically, like when it comes to like calls that are a month out or so on. Um, yeah, so when it comes to calls that are a month out, or I would say that I would kind of, let me see how to put it. I would look to sell like soon. I'd keep like a 20% stop loss or so, 20 to 30% if the swing is within the same month or early in the next month. And then, uh, hold on, sorry, there's just a lot of questions there. Um, yeah, so I would say that's definitely that. So keep a 20 to 30% stop loss on those that expire same month or early in the next month. Regardless of that, I would just look to take profits around, 10% or so. Or, obviously those swings can go really high too. Yeah, so whenever we announce like winner, if we say like 10% winner or so, that means that that play is pretty much there. I mean, cash at will is also like another term we use that typically demonstrates a spot that you could take profits at as well. Remember, like it all depends on the amount of like contracts you have as well. Yeah, we do have one-on-ones. I do have one-on-one sessions. You can DM me for more info. I'm gonna try to hold one this week. Okay, for tax time, yeah. So I pretty much like I kind of put like 30% of whatever I make into another account. Obviously, I don't know like how much. It's just like an estimation. I'd rather be safer than safe than sorry. Now, obviously, the Robinhood incident, like uh, kind of with like wash sales and all that. That's a little bit more iffy. There's a lot of things kind of that they didn't state in a lot of articles that would scare you. So I would say, for the most part, like don't worry about it too much. But obviously, you still have to pay taxes and all that. But don't worry about, like, oh, am I gonna, like, am I gonna be like messed up for taxes and all this? Like, pretty much, it's not gonna be that much. Let's see. Okay, yeah. I'll accept your friend request. For the most part, you probably did DM me. The problem is I probably have like 400 plus DMs, so I didn't really get to, do that. Oh, that is a really great question. If you're paying $10 in fees both ways per trade, then essentially that like you want to go in with contracts that are $200 or greater, or like 150 and greater, just so that the dollar gain will outweigh that. So you don't really want to go in on those cheap ones. So there is a $3,000 capital gain deduction. Hold on, let me rephrase that. So it's not a write-off. A write-off. kind of refers to like a business expense. So the 3K kind of refers to like, let's say you're trading this year and you lose 5K or $5,000, then essentially, um, like that rolls over to your next tax return. So, you have $3,000 that you can deduct um, each year until it runs out. Even if we have a large account, couldn't we follow the small account? Yeah, you could, but once again, I would say like if you have a larger account, I probably wouldn't necessarily follow the small account plays. I would probably go into like 5% for small account, but just because of like what I was talking about in the beginning, those um those small account plays are a little bit more risky because you're kind of looking for like the percent gain can vary a lot. Yeah, Oxy was a great call. That was one of my analyst plays. Let's see. Uh, is it safe to trade over 1K per trade on a $30 account? Yeah. So if you have, I mean, with the account that I'm doing right now, it's in a cash account to be honest. Um, but essentially, like if you have a 25K account, yeah, you could definitely trade with 1K per trade. I would say go in like you can even go in with like 2K per trade. How many plays do you enter at once? I'd say like 1 to 3. I don't try to have that many open positions. What's the split you have for options versus stocks versus long-term plays? That's a really great question there. Um, Options, I kind of have a separate account. Stocks is another one. I sell covered calls on those. Long-term plays, uh, that's going to be like kind of difficult to. So it's a great question, but it's going to be kind of difficult to explain the percentage split. But I would say like um, kind of taking those gains. So one thing I do is like, let's say I make $5,000 on the week. Let's just put that out there. Or let's put $1,000 just to make it easier in math. 300 would go to an account in taxes. Then half of that, so obviously there's 700 remaining. 350 would go into um, another account for covered calls and so to reinvest, but into more stable assets. And then obviously the rest would go into like my bank account or something else. Percent to scale out on small accounts is hard to say just because those percents fluctuate like very heavily. Small investment account. Should I turn off instant settlement on Robinhood so I have unlimited day trades? I don't think you can. If you go to a cash account on Robinhood, you can't trade options. Personal. Okay, so say with 500, how much should we be in cash in a week? Okay, so if you're doing like $500, um, yeah, if you're doing like $500, I would say, um, let me see, I'll put this. $500, you'd probably be booking in like $25 in profit each day or $50 in the profit each day. So I'd say like maybe around anywhere from like 125 to 250 per week. Yeah, you can DM me for more one-on-one info. So we can pretty much go over the day trades from today and I'll break them down for you guys. So the first one was like VXRT. So that was 0.78 to 0.88. So in perspective, obviously there was some scaling out in between. I would say overall the average was about 0.86. So obviously if we put this into perspective, so that would have been about 3,500 over 0.78. So this was about 50 contracts. So this would have been um, like $400 gain. Then obviously this is scaling according to my count here. Uh, so let's just do this. RKT would have been so we got in at 0.57 and essentially that was 0. We were trying to secure there. So that once again, this was a choppy day, so this wasn't easy to play. Um, so let's say that was what? That was like 60 contracts. So that's going to be like a $300 gain ish. Then we have D-Dog. D-Dog was kind of break even. Um, Yeah, D-Dog was essentially break even there. Um, AMC2. So these are they're kind of some, I would say between these two there might have been like a little bit of profit. I would say maybe between like $200 to $300 profit or so. Uh, these are kind of like break even, and that's the hard thing. Like, if you ever say like, or not ever say, if you ever like trying to get into D-Dog or something like that, um, like any of those plays, remember, keep a stop on your own. Like, keep a stop at break even on your own. Like, that's what I always say. Obviously, you see that I keep a break even stop on my plays. Do the same for you as well. So, just to answer his question there real quick, the $3,000 capital gains loss, I see what you're saying there. It's not, it's like if you're filing taxes as a day trader, um, that's a little bit different. So you're gonna want to reach out to your accountant regarding that, but it all depends on like the type of, like that depends on a lot of stuff. I think there's like a special form you have to fill out and all that. There's like a whole bunch of stuff like unlimited losses. I can go a little bit more into detail on that, but you'd probably um, you'd probably want to reach out to your accountant regarding that. Plus, you have to be like an active day trader. So this is D-Dog and this is AMC. Um, let's see another one. Essentially, then we had play. So this was a light play. I learned that said in very lightly. So that was let's see, that was 10 contracts. So this one was a 140 loss, and then we had Facebook. So between Facebook, that what happened was when I got in, essentially we got in at 1.74, and that was 20 contracts, and then at 1.45-ish, I threw down another 20. So obviously there's some discrepancy here, but it was kind of like about this. So this brought my average to 1.6. I sold 20 contracts, the set I used at um, at, oh my, I can't spell, at 1.62, just to get rid of those that I came out at break even. So that was, it's a very small profit, but what, that's like, I don't know, $40 or something. And then the rest was at 1.76. So 20 at 1.76, that gives about um, 0.16 or 16 times 20. That gives like a $320 gain. So overall, if we do this, that's like 360. Um, let's see, 360, 140, 700-ish. So it's about like $1,000 gain on the day. And then obviously there's some discrepancy between AMC and D-Dog. Um, these both kind of went green, like bright green before they went down. So overall, you'd be looking around like on a 35K account or so. I'd say you'd be looking around um, maybe around 1,300, 1,500 profit on the day conservatively. Yeah, so Facebook, once again, I kind of want to reiterate the averaging down aspect. So it's definitely, I would consider, obviously, like it went down, it went up, like there was a little discrepancy on how it moved, but I would consider Facebook a good play. And the reason why I'm not considering a good play based on the money that was made, I'm considering Facebook a great play in terms of like how it was handled. Now, yeah, in terms of D-Dog, one thing that I really want to kind of express is that if you're getting into a play, yeah, VXRT is one that's really fast. If you're getting into a play that has a lot, or let me see how to put this, that's like very volatile and it's moving down. Let's say, so obviously, let's say I got into D-Dog at 1.12, and let's say you filled at 1.14. Obviously, it went down a little bit before, I think, but let's say you got in at 1.14 or, let's say 1.18. Then what you want to do is obviously my break even is 1.12. you want to keep a stop loss at your break even. That's what I mean there. Um, or you want to reevaluate it and take that stop loss down to 1.12. Like, you don't have to wait on me to alert a stop out on the play. That's why, like, I would definitely kind of, whatever entry you get, keep your stop loss accordingly. Now, with that said, I'm gonna hop off this live just because I'm gonna get a little bit more trades in, hopefully. But with that said, I just really wanted to come out here and kind of give some general info out on growing small accounts and all that. For a $500 account, I recommend small account trades. And with that said, I hope you guys have a great trading week. I know that trading can sometimes be a little bit frustrating for some people. Obviously, it's a little bit hard when you might be like ending red on the day, you see other people ending green, and so on. But one thing I always learn is just be patient with it. Uh, you know, just trust, as they say, trust the process, and essentially just have faith and be patient with it. So, with that said, have a great week.